Like Childish Gambino, like Donald Glover, what do you call him?
So why do you call yourself the son of Kanye, man?
Because I am. I can go where Kanye can't.
One of the more well-known cases of artistic versatility can be found in the multi-talented Donald Glover. Similar to Joji, before Glover reached his current level of celebrity, he started on this very platform, as part of the sketch comedy group Derrick Comedy. Many of their videos went viral, even in the age of 240p resolution. In 2006, the group would release their infamous Bro Great video, which remains their most viewed upload to this day. It was the same year that Glover landed his first writing role on the NBC sitcom 30 Rock.
This guy was a writer on 30 Rock, Donald Glover.
Despite looking back on the experience with fondness, Donald recalls many stressful moments. It was a diversity thing, Glover told GQ. It definitely didn't feel like I was supposed to be there. I used to have stress dreams every night where I was doing cartwheels on top of a New York skyscraper with the other writers watching me. As Inga Parkle of The Independent writes, during that time the network had introduced its diversity initiative, which allowed shows to add black writers to the writer's room without it affecting the budget. I think it's possible that incidents such as this are part of what have shaped Glover's unwillingness to remain in any particular lane. At his core, Donald Glover is a creative, and like any creative, he wants to be recognized for his talent, and not something as trivial as the pigment of his skin. While there were stressful moments, Glover ultimately was able to look back on the experience with joy and appreciation. As for his next role, it would put him on the map further than anything thus far, when Glover would appear on the show Community, embodying the character of Troy Barnes. His portrayal of the character resonated with viewers, garnering praise from both critics and casual viewers alike. His chemistry with Danny Putty, who portrayed the character of Abed, was often highlighted as one of the show's strong points. Glover managed to execute the role with charm and finesse. His portrayal of Troy Barnes captivated the show's audience. This would be made blatantly apparent when after 5 seasons, Glover would depart from the show, devastating fans and leaving a noticeable gap in the show's lineup, which only highlighted just how beloved the character had become.
I asked to leave because my heart really wasn't in it, and they thankfully just were like, yeah, and they let me go. I just don't want to have a job anymore. I don't want to have a boss. I don't want to do that anymore. Like I feel like, you know, if I stayed there, I'd be doing my life a disservice.
Even before Glover verbalized his thoughts directly in an interview, it was apparent he wanted to do more. Fans of his may have noticed that even while Community was airing, Glover performed multiple stand-up specials, with Comedy Central Presents Donald Glover in March of 2010.
You like sneakers and you like rap music and you go, tell us which one you like. I was like, oh, you're hurting me, Steven, you know?
2 years later, Comedy Central would bring him back for an hour-long special titled Weirdo in February of 2012. His stand-up specials bolstered his profile and helped in rapidly increasing the size of his following. And while this certainly boosted his celebrity, it would pale in comparison to what Glover had been working on behind the scenes, which all started with a seed he planted all the way back in June of 2008.
Used to go hungry when I bought him new shoes. Now I'm like, food like MF Doom.
Throughout the 2000s, Glover would steadily release a string of mixtapes under his alias of Childish Gambino, beginning with Sick Boy in June of 2008. Followed by Poindexter in September of 2009. Gambino's musical ambitions really began to pick up steam in 2010, where he released I Am Just a Rapper and I Am Just a Rapper 2 in January and February respectively, followed by Cul-de-sac a few months later in July. Cul-de-sac featured some songs that I really enjoyed when I was growing up, such as I'm Alright, Put It in My Video, Do You Like, and I Beyond That. While I personally enjoy a handful of the tracks, some of the more critical listeners may argue that many of these songs haven't really aged that well, and I'd agree, but I think that's totally fine. None of these projects were meant to be Illmatic. They were more so stepping stones for Gambino's growth as a musician, so I can overlook them not being timeless classics. Regardless, the following year would be the biggest year for Childish Gambino's career yet, releasing his first official music video in February of 2011, giving us a taste before dropping his first EP less than a month later on March 8th. This project marks a pivotal point in Gambino's musical career, being the first time he and composer Ludwig's Swedish last name would work together, with the duo collaborating on every one of Gambino's future albums. Speaking of which, with his full-length album ready to drop, Glover would sign to Glassnote Records in September. Once everything was inked, Gambino would drop his debut album Camp, to a lukewarm reception.
This EP he dropped and the mixtape Cul-de-sac. And every step of the way, I have not been a fan. Kind of feeling a strong 2 to a light 3 on this. Really didn't like it at all.
When asked about the critics in a 2022 interview, Glover remarked, I like parts of that album, and I learned so much. Mostly that concepts don't outshine content, but when they're in equilibrium, it's extremely potent. I don't think I was clear on that album, and the songs weren't catchy enough for me. A mindset that he would clearly take on his next full-length album. But before we get there, it's worth mentioning that Gambino would drop one of his most iconic mixtapes in July of 2011, titled Royalty.
Can you turn on my headphones? Just a bit.
The tape featured some personal favorites like One Up featuring his brother, as well as They Don't Like Me with Chance the Rapper. Fast forward a little over a year, Gambino would be ready to release the now iconic Because the Internet, an album which Glover describes as the OK Computer of rap music. The record featured some of Gambino's best material to date. Tracks like 3005, Telegraph Ave, and Sweatpants would become some of Gambino's most popular songs at the time. The rollout for this album was a work of art in of itself. The extent of detail Glover put into this project was enough for me to dedicate an entire half-hour video discussing its various intricacies. Glover combined various forms of media coalescing his various talents. He did everything from playing up a character in interviews, appearing at parks at random to preview songs, hosting a hackathon, creating short films, designing a trailer for a Because the Internet video game, even creating a fake camgirl site. What other artist has done these things? Glover didn't just create a piece of music, he curated an entire experience, one which I haven't seen any other artist match since. Over the next couple of years, Glover would once again begin to branch out, landing some minor and supporting roles like on The Martian, which would go on to win several Golden Globe Awards. He would also put out Stone Mountain and Kauai in October of 2014, a joint mixtape and an EP meant to be considered one cohesive project. And in 2015, the music video for the leading single, Sober, would snatch MTV's Best Music Video Award. 2016 would be another landmark year for Glover, finally premiering Atlanta on FX, a show that fans had been anticipating for years up until that point. And with Glover as the show's executive producer, writer, and lead actor, he was able to further flex his multi-talented prowess. Later that year, Gambino would deliver fans a massive left turn with his most popular album yet, Awaken My Love. He'd feature as a small cameo in Spider-Man Homecoming, voice acting in The Lion King, Lando in the new Star Wars movies. I could go on about Glover's endeavors, but you get the point by now. Glover's reinventions have little to no bounds, and with a new album right around the corner, time will only tell what his creativity has in store for fans.